Hi guys, welcome to the channel. In this video I want to talk about top 5 things which, in my opinion, make your tracks professional. So if you have any problems with any of those things which I'm going to talk about just in a couple of seconds, make sure to watch this video till the end and I'm sure it will help you a lot. We are going to take a look at one of my latest tracks which I've made so you could see how I made it. So the first and the most important thing in electronic dance music is the kick and bass. I think the kick and bass makes 50% of a good track. I'm using kick 2 in every project and I think it's so much better than just using a sample. And there are a couple of reasons why. So the first reason is that you can shape the body of your kick. As you can see, I have different points. So for example, this one is B, this one is E, and this one is E. So my advice for making kicks and kick 2 is to make sure that the kick is in the key of your track. So for example here, we could see that my kick is in E and the track is in E minor. And the best way to add points is fifths and octaves. So for example, if I wanted to add one more point, I would probably use an E here, or we could try and use B and A. So the A is subdominant and the B is dominant and is a perfect fifth. So the same thing applies here. As you can see, you could adjust the shape of your kick. So if I move the point, here, the body of my kick will change. But I'm going to keep it as it is. Now guys, let's play the kick and the bass together. Yeah, nice and punchy kick and bass. On the kick, I also have a transient. So if I mute it, it's going to sound like that. Yeah, still sounds good, but if we add a transient, it's going to have more presence in the mix. So my advice here, try adding some transients. So for example here guys, I'm using another kick where I cut the low end and just leave it with a click. And with the sub layer, one really cool plugin for the kick is Cashmere Essentials Kick. It is a free plugin, and here you can add some sub, some mid, some air, some transient. One more very important thing is EQing. So make sure to EQ kick and bass correctly. So if I mute the EQ, it's going to sound like that. Not as big difference, but here I've freed some space for my bass and here as well. And I've also cut a bit of my eyes to make sure I have enough space for my instruments, for my drums. Basically, we don't need a lot of eye and to our kick. Now let's go to the bass, and for the bass, for some reason, I don't have an equalizer here. But basically, what you need to do with the bass, you just need to cut the low end, so everything below 30 Hertz. And for this bass, I could also cut the eyes, maybe till here. And also we could try and cut 300 Hertz to free some space for our kick, or maybe it could be 200. It really depends on the sound of your kick and bass, because sometimes it can be 300, sometimes it can be 200. Basically from 100 till 300, that is the part of spectrum where you could cut your kick and the bass just to make sure they work good together. Yeah, I think we're going to cut at 200. One more cool thing you could do with your kick and bass is saturation, and I really like using saturation on groups. So if you haven't seen my saturation video, make sure to go and check it out. I'm going to leave a link and also a suggestion. So if I mute the saturation, it's going to sound like that. Yeah, it's a really huge difference. With the saturation, you can make your kick and bass, your instruments, basically any sound more warm, more fat, etc. So make sure to use saturation in every mix. The next step is compression. Here I've chosen a very short attack time, so the transient of the kick, it triggers compressor, it compresses the kick, but it doesn't touch the bass as much as the kick. So it just glues the kick and bass together. The EQing here is very simple, just the low end, which I've cut. And the next thing is the idea, guys. It's very important to work on your idea and make sure it sounds good. Yeah, I really like the vibe of this track, really minimal, sounds like deep tech or some kind of tech house with a bit of trancey vibe, a bit of acid as well. And the idea is very important as well, so make sure, guys, you have a reference track so you could compare the mixing, the idea, so you could switch between your tracks and make sure that your track is as good as the reference track. So yeah, I would say the kick and the bass, the idea and the arrangement is the top three things which are going to make your track professional. For the arrangement, what you can do, guys, you can try to find a reference track, and if you don't know how to arrange your tracks, just copy the arrangement of the reference track, but you don't actually need to copy all of the instruments, all of the elements that the reference track has, but you could rather copy just the arrangement and maybe edit it a little so it fits the idea, the mood and overall vibe of your track. It's the perfect solution, I think. The next thing which I have written down is vocal. Not really necessary if you are making instrumental tracks like I do, because I rarely use vocals since I don't have any access to vocals. But if you do, make sure that the vocal sounds good. It's recorded with a good mic in a good acoustically treated studio. And basically that is what you need to make your vocal sound good. Mixing wise, it's not really hard to mix vocals. You just need to apply some EQ, some saturation, some compression, and add a little bit of reverb and delay, and that is basically it. That is the secret behind many of the pro tracks. They doesn't have a lot of processing like mixing, mastering. It's all about simplicity. So my advice here, try to be simple and minimal when you can, and I'm sure it will improve your mixes, because it improved my mixes a lot when I started focusing on every single element instead of adding a bunch of effects, bunch of instruments and other stuff which just it's not necessary in your mixes. So for example, my latest tracks, they have like 20 to 30 or sometimes 40 tracks, and that is basically enough, guys. The next thing is mixing, but the thing with the mixing is that if your idea is bad, if the sound design is bad, if the arrangement is bad, it doesn't matter how well the track is mixed, it's still going to be a crap because the idea is bad. First is the idea, the arrangement, then is the mixing. I would say the mixing is about 30% of the good track, so try focusing on mixing, but make sure not to focus on it too much. And I've came up with one more thing which is very important for a good track, and this thing is drums and groove. It's really important to work on your drums. I'm going to show you my drums just in a couple of seconds, because the drums is the thing which make your track unique. So if you have some signature sounds, maybe some loops, maybe some samples which you like using, just make sure to use it, and it's going to give your tracks that personal vibe. So people are going to always recognize that that is you who have made this track. So let's have a look at my drums. As you can see, guys, my drums are pretty simple here. I have combined straight rhythm with 16th triplet notes, so make sure to use triplet grid. So in Ableton you can turn it on by pressing Command +3, or you can press right click on your mouse and you could turn it on here. And by using different rhythms, polyrhythms is also a very cool thing, you can achieve a very interesting groove. It's not a shame to use loops. For example, you could use a loop, deconstruct it, so you could see how it was made, and after that you can make your own drum loop with your own one-shots just by using the same MIDI pattern. So if you don't like using loops, or if you would like to have more control over your drums, which I honestly prefer. So that is a short tip for you guys, how you could improve your drum loops. And the last thing, which I think makes your track professional, is sound design. In electronic dance music, the sound design and the idea, they are very well connected to each other, because you start with the sound design, and the right sound design, it really helps you to mix your track. So if you pick the right sounds, it will be so much easier, guys, to mix such a track. Believe me, I had a problem when I just picked wrong sounds, and it's just impossible to mix those. And also, one important thing is the arrangement. So the arrangement, the idea, the sound design, they are all very well connected, and if you do a good job on every single of those things, your track will sound professional. So I think that was all for today. This video wasn't really like a tutorial. I just wanted to talk a bit more about important things in music production, which makes your tracks sound professional. And if you'd like me to make a tutorial on any of those topics, let me know in the comments below, guys. Your opinion, your feedback is very important for me. I hope you guys liked the video. I really hope you could find some value in this video. And as always, thanks for watching, guys, and I see you guys in the next one.